Okay, I want to start off by giving all praises to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rakah, Kwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who teach the Bible in 100% truth. And shalom to the hopeful elect of the 12 tribes of Israel, starting with the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans in the land of North, Central, and South America, as well as the speckled bird, the Israelite foreigners, the Israelites who live amongst the other nations around the world, looking like the other nations around the world who receive this word, shalom to you. Okay, today I'm looking at the current situation, leading up towards the MOTB. We have a situation, the understanding of Jacob's trouble, which is based around the time of the implementation of the MOTB, and especially towards the final stages. So we're in a time now where there are troubles around the earth. Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai is visiting this earth and bringing plagues in various different scenarios. And there's been drastic changes since 2020, the back end of 2019, pretty much 2020 onwards. And even people that are not religious or people who are not biblical, they can look at the events that are going on, and people are understanding that we're in a very special time. When I say special, in that this is not a time like a normal, like how things have been for previous years. Things are definitely happening. A lot of these news broadcasters are talking about World War III and so on and so forth. So people know that there's great trouble out there ahead, and even at the minute troubles are increasing upon this earth in many different forms. So those that understand this truth, this gospel, those that believe that the Spirit is working upon us, we're hoping on salvation. We have faith that we will be delivered in the times of trouble, which is known as Jacob's trouble, the time of temptation, and we're also hoping for deliverance just before the destruction of Babylon the Great during the time of World War III, via UAPs, UFOs, which are known as chariots of the Most High within the Bible. So, at the minute, if you, for example, myself, I'm working in a job where I deal with the public, and I'm more likely to see, roughly, say, on one particular shift, I might come across 200 people in a day, members of the public, and then on different days, obviously, if I go in 4 days in a row, that's 800 different people that I'm coming across in 4 days. So I'm seeing a lot of the public. If you're working in the public, you'll see a lot of people in the public. Plus you can go online. You're looking at YouTube and all these other platforms. You're seeing certain events. There are a lot more cameras out there at the minute, more than there ever have been. So with that, certain scenarios that are happening, certain situations, criminal activity, violent activity, and just generally wicked behavior and wicked things that are going on around the world. We're all able to see certain things that are happening and certain patterns of behavior, and we're all aware that things are changing. A lot of people are starting to bug out, especially with the things that have gone on in the last few years. You have people that are plagued by demons in the mind, and they create situations which people in the world will label as mental health. And so what it is, you have two levels, if you like, of people with the so-called mental health, with these demons on their mind. You have one type of set of people which are, we would consider, given them the phrase, bugged out. And even though they come across as bugged out, some of them do speak a lot of truth. So for example, in the hospital where I work, I see a lot of people that are so-called bugged out. They have demons plaguing their minds, and they'll tell me, face to face, they'll say, I can see angels at the window looking at me, so on and so forth. So that's one type of level of mental health. But then there's another level, which is what I'm concentrating on today, which is the type of mental health where you have people that are functioning and they're going to work and they're dealing with their issues, but at the same time, they're not really dealing with the issues, and the problems that are occurring around the world at the minute are having great effects on people's minds. On one hand, we have the powers that be that are implementing this MOTB and the framework for it and the infrastructure, and they're also affecting the public in terms of changing the way we think with gradualism. So there's an effect on the mind through the powers that be, and also through the events, what's caused, the reaction that's caused out of these particular things. If there are things that are happening on street level, the people are finding it hard to eat, so crime is going up, violent crime is going up. So people on the street level are feeling the brunt of these changes, and so that creates mental health problems within the people that are still functioning in normal, so-called normal within society. And so, this all comes back round to the members of the elect and the people that receive this truth, that understand this truth. We know what's due to happen. We know that we're coming up to this time of Jacob's trouble. We know that they're going to implement this MOTB, and you're going to be involved in this hour of temptation. And you at one point you'll have a decision to make. Where you'll be looking at your wife and your child in the face, and you'll have to tell them that we're not going to take this thing, and we're going to have to go without eating until something takes place. And they're going to ask you, what is it that's going to take place? And you're going to say, I don't know, but I have the faith that Yahweh Bashim Yahushua is going to do something. So you're going to have that particular one conversation at some point. Your wife and child are going to look at you, your children, or you, even if it's just you and your wife, or just you. There may be single women who understand this truth, who have children. You're going to look at your children. The children's going to be the big emotional string that's going to be pulled through that particular phase. Because it's okay for an adult to say, yeah, I can go with a few days without eating, but then trying to tell that to your children is a whole new ball game. So you're going to be put in this situation where you're looking at your children and you're going to say, I'm not taking this MOTB, and I can't go and buy any food for the minute. They're going to ask you, what is your plan B? And you're going to say, I don't have a plan B. My plan B is to wait on Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai, wait on the Lord to provide me with something. And you're going to say, I hope this time passes quickly, because then we know that the deliverance, and we'll be beamed up out of it. Lord willing, we're of the elect, will be beamed up out of it very close after that point. So that's the answer you're going to have to give to your family. And through that time, even through the time now, because things are building up towards that point, that's going to plague your mental health. Not in the, like I say, not in the, on the level. You've got these people out here that are telling you, I can see the demon in the window. Or sometimes I come across people and they're talking to me at work, and they'll stop the conversation. They'll say, hang on a minute, and they'll turn around and talk over their shoulder. They'll physically talk to their demons and have a three-way conversation, and they'll turn around and carry on talking to me. So these people, they consider bugged out. But there are people that are functioning, who are being affected in the mind by the problems that are going on. They haven't gotten that far down the line of being plagued in the mind. And the members of the elect, you see, they're obviously, we have a clear mind. That's what Yahweh Bashim Yahushai has given us, to see these prophecies taking place, to help us understand. Yet the world is trying to reel you back in, with all this predictive programming and this these subliminal messages and so on and so forth. Things that are happening around you can't help but affect you. So it's down to you, being the member of the elect, to make your, if you're going to be the member of the elect. If you are, we don't know, but if you are, you are, and which means you will be delivered at some point. But to make your journey between now and then easier upon yourself, you need to remember these scriptures and remember this understanding, and call on the name Yahweh Bashim Yahushai for understanding, to keep your mind clear. Ultimately, it says here, Proverbs 19:21, there are many devices in a man's heart. So there are many in a man's heart, being his mind. So there's many ideas and ways in which you're going to plan particular events and certain things. And you say, when this happens, I'm going to do that. And when that happens, I'm going to do this. But guess what? It says here, nevertheless, the counsel of the Lord, that shall stand. So you may think you're going to do things this way or that way, but it's down to the Lord how things turn out. So you may do everything you think you can to avoid certain troubles, but the Lord will still bring those troubles to you. We're getting up to that time of Jacob's trouble, and things are not going to get easier from here on now. The troubles upon the earth have increased since 2020. We saw the situation in 2020, 2021, and people were, told, put under draconian rules in order to follow certain things to so-called be healthy. And in 2023, we've seen war take place, for example. We've seen people dying in war situations in Ukraine and Russia. So we now, we're building up towards this economic climax, this economic crash, and we know this MOTB will be implemented very soon, and we know great death and great famine is going to increase even more. Things aren't going to get any easier from where we are today. People out there that have the Bible under their arm, claim to be Christian, praying for scenarios to get better and the world, to be at peace. They don't understand the scriptures. They don't understand that the Lord is bringing this current world, this current system, this current era that we're living in, not the planet itself, but the era that we're living in, is bringing it to a close. So how can you be somebody who understands the scriptures and stand there and pray for peace on earth when the Lord's shutting it down? You don't have the understanding of these scriptures. So that's a example of a man having a device in his mind saying, well, I'm going to go out and pray for peace. Yet nevertheless, the counsel of the Lord that shall stand. Well, the Lord is telling you, I'm bringing this system to a close. So you better get it with the program. So, we're going through this particular time and at the minute you can see things, the reason why I mentioned working in public, for example, you're seeing people bugging out more and more, especially since people were forced to stay at home during 2020 and 2021. It's as if since the public have come back out in 2022, you're seeing people suffering mental health, and what that does is causes them to behave erratically and irrationally. And what I've noticed myself, for example, since 2022 and 2023, people have become more self-centered. The time that they were forced to stay at home has got them to concentrate on themselves more. And so when they come back out into the community and they're having to queue or wait or share, their tolerance level is very, very low. So there's a lot of people out there very intolerant, very aggressive, generally cheesed off, and there's a lot of people working their asses off because of this cost of living crisis. So this rat race that we live in has become even more ratified, if that's a word. When you watch a bunch of rats in a sewer, they're clambering over each other. You chuck a piece of meat down there, they'll clamber over each other, and they don't care if what they're doing. They just want to get to that piece of meat, and that's generally how society is based and formed and directed in that direction through the rat race. And this rat race is getting more ratified, like I keep saying, if that is a word, in this time that we're living in, and it's going to get worse and worse. It's dog eat dog, so to speak. So it's going to become more like that. So you're out there, you're trying to look after yourself, defend your little corner, and you're waiting on your Yahweh to bring this trouble for it to pass. And you've got faith and you're praying on salvation in the meantime. And there's a lot of people out here that we're starting to see them bug out. You don't want to fall into that category. And this is what the point of the lesson is. So if we go to Isaiah chapter 33, the point I want to make is here in verse 6, but I'll start from the top, and it says, Isaiah 33 and 1, this is entitled The Judgment of the Most High. It says, woe to thee that spoilest, and thou wast not spoiled. Now this is referring to these banking elites and the wicked who with these agendas, with these ideas that they have, they influence the world. And not only do they influence the world, they spoil it. And especially the nation of Israel have been spoiled the most, and these were not spoiled. It says, and dealest treacherously, and they deal not treacherously with thee. Generally these are the Edomites. They do this on all types of levels. if you're an Israelite and you go to work in a Edomite company and you find out that everybody there is working is an Edomite, chances are they're going to deal with you treacherously within that time, within the little period of time that you work there. It says, and they deal not treacherously with thee. When thou cease to spoil, thou shalt be spoiled. And when thou shalt make an end to deal treacherously, they shall deal treacherously with thee. So, this is, as it says here, judgment from the Most High. And what you're reading is pretty much what, some people refer to as karma. The Most High is saying, if those that deal treacherously, those that shall make an end to deal treacherously with whoever, pretty much they shall deal treacherously with thee. And so these Edomites are in power at the minute, they're ruling, and they've dealt treacherously with the nations of the earth, especially the Israelites. And the only one particular people in this earth that don't have their own space and land are the Israelites. In fact, the Edomites took it to a level where they even put somebody who are not the Israelites into the land of the Israelites, so that the Israelites, as we are, can't go back there whether we want to or not. Now, obviously, this has all come under the curses of Yahweh Bashim, Yahweh Shai, and this is the story of the Bible, if you like. So it has to go that way. But ultimately, the way that these Edomites have gone about it in a treacherous manner. Don't forget Genesis. So an example of karma, for example, this thing that we refer to as karma is actually judgment from Yahweh Bashim, Yahweh Shai. You can have an example of karma in the book of Genesis, chapter 49 and 27. This talks about Benjamin, the tribe of Benjamin. And it says here, Benjamin shall raven as a wolf. So in this time that we're living in now, especially since the 70s up until now, the Benjamites, the tribe of Benjamin, are known as the West Indians. And if you were to look at the West Indian music, there's a lot of ravening as wolves. And this comes down, within the music, the people from the tribe of Benjamin are always talking about Babylon and the curse of Babylon and freedom from Babylon, so on and so forth. And there's a lot of talk of biblical aspects within West Indian music. And this is the tribe of Benjamin ravening as a wolf. Now it goes on to say here, in the morning he shall devour the prey, and at night he shall divide the spoil. So this is an example of what you would refer to as karma, which is judgment. It says here, going back to Isaiah 33 and 1, it says, when thou make to an end to deal treacherously, these Edomites have dealt treacherously with the tribe of Benjamin, for example, is they shall deal treacherously with thee. Genesis 49:27 says, in the morning he shall devour the prey, and at night he shall divide the spoil. So, us as a nation, we're soon to be put into power on the return of Yahweh Bashim, Yahweh Shai, and on the return of Yahweh Shai. And at that point, Benjamin in that particular land, they'll be on top. And any Edomites, they're going to get it. It says they shall devour the prey, and at night he shall divide the spoil. So back to Isaiah 33 and 2, it says, O Lord, be gracious unto us. We have waited for thee. Be thou their arm every morning, our salvation also in the time of trouble. And, an arm represents strength. When you send a text message, you might use an emoji. You might use the emoji with the arm, with the fist curled up, and flexing the bicep. And this represents strength. So this is, be thou their strength every morning, our salvation also in the time of trouble. At the noise of the tumult, the people fled. At the lifting up of thyself, the nations were scattered. So this is referring to the Assyrians in the time of Isaiah. It says, and your spoil shall be gathered like the gatherings of the caterpillar. As the running to and fro of locusts shall he run upon them. So this is referring to the Assyrian army and being stripped. And the modern day Assyrians are the Edomites, and these Edomite armies will be stripped come the day of the Lord, stripped in the same way that caterpillars and locusts run to and fro, stripping fields of grain and whatever it is they strip. It says here, the Lord is exalted, for he dwelleth on high. He hath filled Zion with judgment and righteousness. So people tell you that only the Most High can judge me. And I've actually been told that myself before. And then I've had to go on to explain to this individual that, the Most High has given commandments to his men, and his men are out here teaching and speaking them through this book. So, for you to say that only the Most High can judge me, it says that the Lord is exalted, for he dwelleth on high. He have filled Zion, and Zion today represents the members of the elect that have come back to this truth, especially the teachers. It says here with judgment and righteousness. So we understand righteousness and we understand the judgment of the Most High. So now we can use that understanding of judgment to look at you and make a judgment, whether you're according to the Most High, according to righteousness or not. And this is the point I wanted to hit. It's Isaiah 33:6, and it says, "And wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times, and strength of salvation. The fear of the Lord is his treasure." So, you're coming up to the time of Jacob's trouble. And it says here, "The wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times." So you want to keep yourself stable in that time of Jacob's trouble, in the time that we're living in at the minute. We've got this cost of crisis situation going on. You go out into the world, you don't know if you're going to get attacked. You don't know if someone's going to try and snatch your child. While you're out in public, you don't know if people are back at your house, ransacking your house. These are the types of things that are, rife today. They're going up and up in number because of the way things are going around this world. Where I'm living at the minute in the UK, they just announced that in the last year. Okay, so we're currently May the 2nd today. So in the last year, they're saying that, from 2022 to 2023, the cost of living in the UK has gone up by 16%. Yet, for example, people working in healthcare, which is where I work, the cost of living, the increase in wages, has only gone up by 5%. And at the minute, they're offering another 5% increase. So, ultimately, you want to give us a 10% increase in wages, but the cost of living has gone up by 16%. So people are suffering. And, to keep yourself stable through this time, you need to call on the Lord, the names Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai. The wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times, and strength of salvation. For the fear of the Lord is his treasure. And so fearing the Lord is you understanding that everything is given to you by the Lord. Now, before I move on, I want to quickly run through the same 6 precepts in the NLT. This is still the book of Isaiah 33:1. And I wanted to read it in the NLT because the way it's written, makes it almost impossible to not understand. So reading again here, Isaiah 33:1 in the NLT says, "What sorrows await you, Assyrians, who have destroyed others?" Now the Assyrians today are represented by the Edomites. And, talking about the Edomites today, or Babylon the Great, for example, America, there are many code words in this book. So sometimes, when you're reading about the Assyrians, you're reading about the Edomites. This is an event that happened to the Assyrians in previous times, in the time of Isaiah. And, judgment's going to be reaching the modern day Assyrians, which are the Edomites, come the time of judgment. It says here, "What sorrows await you, Assyrians, who have destroyed others?" And this is exactly what they've done in this modern day through the control of these banking elites. It says, "But have never been destroyed yourselves. You betray others, but you have never been betrayed. When you are done destroying, you will be destroyed. When you are done betraying, you will be betrayed." Ultimately, they're going to be betrayed. These Edomites are going to be betrayed by these other nations. The banking elites, the king of the Edomites, have affected many people around the world, from people on the street level right up to the leaders and the kings of other nations. They've dealt treacherously with all of us. So, come the day of the Lord, these other nations are going to turn on them. And, it says those that they have betrayed will betray them and turn on them and shoot nuclear ICBM. That's why also, is it Revelation 17, I believe, speaks of the EU nations hate for America and ultimately shooting ICBMs upon them. So, this is the betrayal that it speaks of. So Isaiah 33:2 says, "But Lord, be merciful to us, for we have waited for you. Be our strong arm each day, and our salvation in times of trouble. The enemy runs at the sound of your voice. When you stand up, the nations flee. Just as caterpillars and locusts strip the fields and vines, so the fallen army of Assyria will be stripped." And it was stripped in the time of Isaiah, and it will be stripped in this modern day time, the modern day Assyrians, these Edomites. It says, "Though the Lord is very great and lives in heaven, he will make Jerusalem his home of justice and righteousness." Jerusalem being the people before it's a place. Verse 6 says, "In the day," and verse 6, this is the one I wanted to get. It says, "In that day, he will be your sure foundation, providing a rich store of salvation, wisdom, and knowledge. The fear of the Lord will be your treasure." So fearing the Lord is, what's going to get you through these particular scenarios. That will provide you wisdom, knowledge, and salvation. And it says here, and this is in that day, he will be your sure foundation, providing a store of salvation. And a store, when you have a store, you can have a store cupboard or a storehouse. And ultimately, when you open that door to step into that store, the bottom line is you will have multiple options. And that's what it is. You're getting into these certain scenarios, these Edomites, with this financial system, the walls are closing in slowly, and we're getting to that time of Jacob's trouble. Things around you are going to heat up. There's going to be a lot of drama surrounding you, and you're trying to stay calm within that. And ultimately, the only thing that's going to help you get through that time is the fear of the Lord. And the Lord will provide a store of salvation, many options, many scenarios, many options. Many options of salvation, many options of deliverance, many options of wisdom and knowledge, ways to navigate through these scenarios. When you go to Philippians chapter 4, this is Apostle Paul speaking to the church of Philippi. He says, "Let your moderation be known unto all men. The Lord is at hand." And what more time? This is in the time of Apostle Paul, and it applies to the time now. What more than the time that we're living in now? The Lord, the deliverance, the return of Yahushua is closer than ever. It's right around the corner. We're looking at the next couple of years, expecting the return of Yahushua. So, the phrase "the Lord is at hand," is a big statement to make, especially now. It's almost about to happen. It says, "Be careful for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known unto the Most High." So during this time of Jacob's trouble, there's no point. If you're, for example, you're living in the cost of living crisis, and you're worried about getting overtime at work, so you can help, meet with these bills. These bills are increasing on a monthly basis, and so you can spend your time bugging the people you work for, bugging the manager you work for, emailing them, giving them a call, telling them you're available. I'm available for extra shifts. Can you help me out? And ring them up 2 days later. Has anybody called in sick? Is there anything available? Or you can spend your time, giving your requests to the Most High and saying, "Lord, can you please deliver me from this situation? You can see what I'm in." And the Lord will put the Spirit on your manager to give you a call and say, "You know what? I've got this free shift available, and I noticed that you're looking for extra shifts to just come down, and you can start later on today." So you have to, leading up to this time of Jacob's trouble and navigating your way through the time of Jacob's trouble, you've got to realize there's, where to apply the pressure. There's certain times that you should be applying pressure, and certain times you shouldn't be applying pressure when dealing with this world. If you call on the Lord and make your requests known, pressure applied in that scenario is better than going out into the world and trying to apply pressure to the scenarios on a carnal level, on a physical, face-to-face, one-to-one level. Remember, you're dealing with the world and the people in the world, but the people in the world are controlled by spirits upon them. Yahushua controls those spirits. So you have access to the control of the spirits of these other people. And that's why, it's important for you to understand, instead of getting into it on a one-to-one with a lot of these people. That some people are bugged out, some people are, people, when people are bugging out, they react in crazy ways, and you don't really want to be around it, but you're seeing it, you're coming across it, and people are coming up with all sorts of solutions to their particular problems, and you want to stay clear of it. So, in order to get what you need and to keep things simple, call on the Most High. It says, "Be careful for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving." And so this word "be careful," when you look at the word "be careful" here, you have the word merinah. When you look up the phrase or the word, as "be careful," in the Greek it goes back to merinael, and when you look up the root word of that in the Hebrew, I believe this is the Hebrew, this is merimna, and the Greek has nao at the end of it. In the Hebrew, nao, nah. So both words pretty much have the same meaning, of anxiety. And when you look up the root word of merinah, we have here on the screen, and look up that root word, it goes back to the word merizo, which is to be divided. So, when your mind is divided and unsure at the highest level, that pretty much is anxiety. That's what it's causing in your mind. And then that can lead on to other issues within your body. But the minute we're going to stick with this one in the Hebrew, which is pretty much the same meaning as the Greek, merimna. You can see written here, merinah. This is the word that we have in place. And merinah is to be anxious. Okay, so it says here, be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer. And don't be anxious for needing food and drink just for the sake of being anxious for that. Be anxious in the form of prayer and supplication, and ask the Lord, can you provide me with something to eat? Can you provide me with something to show my family that I'm wise to not take this MOTB? The Lord will provide an example, and your family will witness it, and they'll understand. And the Lord willing, it goes down that way. It says, but be anxious through the thought of prayer. So, ask the Lord and be anxious in that manner, rather than, ringing up your boss and making the request to him and being anxious through that. When you look at the root word, the root of merinah, it says through the idea of distraction. If you look at the bottom here, so this is what it is. There's many distractions out here, the cost of living crisis, as well as other things that are going on. Everybody's trying to provide you with some sort of solution to problems, and sometimes you feel like you can take things into your own hands. Remember, you're living in that time where we're building up to the time of Jacob's trouble, and when we're in the time of Jacob's trouble, all this, we can go out and save the world. That's going to be over. People are going to be out here robbing each other, raping each other, killing each other. It's a time like never been seen before. So don't get distracted. Don't don't take on board the anxiety of the things that are happening around you. But your anxiety, and direct it through prayer and supplication. Ask the Lord, make your requests known unto the Most High. When you go to Matthew 6, what does it give you? It gives you the cure for anxiety. This Bible provides with a lot of things, and here it is, the cure of anxiety. I'm sure there's many other examples in here in these scriptures, but I'm going to go to this one in particular. This is Matthew, the book of Matthew, chapter 6 and 25. It says, "Therefore I say unto you, take no thought for your life, what ye shall eat, or what ye shall drink, nor yet for your body, what ye shall put on it. Is not the life more than the meat, and the body than the raiment?" So, for example, you want to preserve your life, and a lot of people out here that they're fixated on food. They say, "Well, I need the meat to keep my life sustained." And so, what's more important, the life or the meat? The life. That's the ultimate goal. So you've got to remember that, and you've got to remember by calling on Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, meat is a byproduct of that. and you will get your meat. So instead of spending your time being anxious on where you're going to find meat, put your time being anxious in towards prayer and supplication towards Yahweh Ba'ashim, Yahweh Shai, and a byproduct of that will be you being provided with meat. It says here the body more important than raiment. So the body is more important than the clothes that you wear, because you put the clothes on to protect your body, but ultimately the body is what's more important. It says here, take no thought for your life, what you shall eat or what you shall drink, nor yet for your body, what you shall put on. Is not life more than the meat, and the body than raiment? Verse 26 says, behold, the fowls of the air, for they sow not, neither do they reap, nor gather into barns, yet your heavenly Father feedeth them. Are ye not much better than they? So the birds of the air, birds don't wake up in the morning and think, what I'm going to do today, I'm going to build a storage house, and if I go out crazy for the next week and I just collect as many berries and seeds as I can and store them up in the storehouse, I won't have to go out for another month. Birds don't think on that level. They go out every time they need to eat, every particular meal time, they have to go out and look for it. And they rely on the fact that they're going to find it. And it's the Heavenly Father providing them with that, feedeth them. And it says here, are you not much better than they? Well, of course you are, especially if you're Israelites. So the Lord will provide for you. It says, which of you, by taking thought, can add 1 cubit unto his stature? And how long can you add on to your life by thinking about it? You can't. You can think about all these things. You've got these people out here that, if I do this and I do that, I can extend my life. You can't. It's Yahweh Ba'ashim, Yahweh Shai, that ultimately decides, Yahweh, that decides how long you have to live. I'm going through this quickly because I'm going to again read it through the NLT. It says, and why take ye thought for raiment? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow, they toil not, neither do they spin. And yet I say unto you, that even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. Because when you consider the fields and nature and the plants that grow and the beauty of it, all that Solomon had, when you understand reincarnation through the spirit, you'll understand that King Solomon was also later on Yahweh Shai. And in the time of King Solomon, it says here, for in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these, like the lilies of the field, and how they grow and how they toil not, and neither do they spin. Because wherefore, if the Most High so clotheth the grass of the field, which today is, and tomorrow is cast into the oven, shall he not more clothe you, O ye of little faith? Therefore take no thought, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or whether shall we be clothed? For after all these things do the Gentiles seek. The Gentiles, there are 2 types of Gentiles. You have the Israelite living amongst the other nations according to their customs. That's one type of Gentile, which, ultimately through bloodline still goes back to your nationality. And then you have another type of Gentile, which is the other nations. Now, Christians, they like to say, Gentiles can be saved, and they like to dump both groups of Gentiles into one meaning. And they say, well, I'm of another nation, I'm a Gentile, I can be saved. But they never read this. And it says here, for all these things do the Gentiles seek. So whether you're an Israelite, foreigner, living amongst another nation who doesn't know your nationality, your truth, or you're a member of the other nations, foreigners, living in your own lands. It says, for all of these things do the Gentiles seek. What do they seek? They seek, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or whether shall we be clothed? For your heavenly Father knoweth that ye have need for all these things. But ye seek first the kingdom of the Most High and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. And that's what these Gentiles don't get. We know that if we call on Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, worrying about what we're going to wear, what we're going to eat, and what we're going to use, that will all be provided unto us. So you have one choice. You can spend your time concentrating on where you're going to get these things from, or you can spend your time concentrating on the scriptures and praying and having faith in the names Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai. It says, therefore, take no thought for tomorrow, for the morrow shall take thought of these things itself. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. So I ran through that quite quickly because I wanted to go through it in the NLT, because the way they describe one of the particular precepts hits it on the head. It says, so back to Matthew 6:25 in the NLT, it says, this is why I tell you not to worry about everyday life, whether you have enough food and drink or enough clothes to wear. Isn't life more than food and your body more than clothing? Look at the birds. They don't plant or harvest or store food in barns, for your heavenly Father feeds them, and aren't you far more valuable to him than they are? And don't forget, when you throw up the Lord's Prayer and give us this day our daily bread, you're asking to be provided for on a daily basis. The Lord's Prayer isn't about asking to be provided for, for a whole year's worth of, give us this year our yearly bread, and I'll come back to you next year and I'll ask again. No, it's a daily thing. At the minute you're living under captivity, so trying to stack up and store, you're thinking, I can plan 6, 10 years ahead. But if you're living under the curses, the Lord's not going to allow you to do that. He's going to force you into a situation where you have to live on a daily basis. And that's why you have the Lord's Prayer. Give us this day our daily bread. So understanding that can give you a bit of peace of mind from the anxiety of wondering why it is that you can't seem to stack this money. You see, this is how it all falls back on itself. The understanding. And it says, look at the birds. They don't plant or harvest or store food in barns, for your heavenly Father feeds them. And aren't you far more valuable to him than they are? Can all your worries add a single moment to your life? No, it can't. It says, and why worry about your clothing? Look at the lilies of the field and how they grow. They don't work or make their clothing, yet they look so beautiful. It says, yet Solomon, in all his glory, was not dressed as beautifully as they are. It says, and if the Most High cares so wonderfully for the wildflowers that are here today and thrown into the fire tomorrow, he will certainly care for you. Why do you have so little faith? And that's what you're going to need in this time of Jacob's trouble, faith. And that's what I'm showing you here. It says, so don't worry about these things, saying, what will we eat? What will we drink? What will we wear? These things dominate the thoughts of unbelievers, but your heavenly Father already knows all your needs. And that's what I wanted to highlight. It says here, the way it says, these things dominate the thoughts of unbelievers. So at the minute, when you go out and you're going into the public, and especially if you're meeting people en masse, you will find that the problems of individuals are dominating their own thoughts. People are becoming more self-centered, more short-tempered, and this is having a reaction in society. You're seeing more violence, more criminal activity. People are just bugging out altogether, and it's going to increase. You're having the visitation of Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai. We're going to start seeing, at some point, you're going to start seeing apparitions, and people are going to start witnessing demonic energy on a more regular basis. You're going to see strange things happening. During the time of Jacob's trouble, you're going to see a lot of violence taking place, and things are going to get real bad out here. The Lord will lift up a standard to deliver members of the elect, and some may even gain spiritual powers during the time of the Jacob's trouble in order to sustain those individuals. And this is all going to accumulate in World War III, and then ultimately the appearance of a chariot in the sky with Yahushua in that chariot, who will then deliver all the members of the elect, while the great destruction down here continues to take place. So between now and that time, things are going to get real bad. There's going to be no let off. People in the world that are suffering, it's going to increase. You go out, like I say, you're going out on a daily basis, and you could get robbed, and you could get violently attacked. People could snatch your children. People are trying to take off you. and you're suffering. You're trying to, at the same time, you're trying to get the work to pay these bills. You're even worried about the banks. People out there are worried about banks taking their houses away in this cost of living crisis. So people are living on the edge at the minute, and the agenda of these banking elites is putting them on edge so that they can put you into the time of temptation in order to tempt you into taking the MOTB. And so this time is going to be a time of great pressure. And just like the time, during 2020 and 2021, you were watching TV and there was a lot of propaganda about people's health and what's going on around the world. And, people sat at home and they had a decision to make. So there was a lot of stress. There was a lot of panic in their mind. For example, some people, call on the name Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, but they still went out and took tests. You know why they took tests? Because their mind was weak at particular moments. Demons got to them, and they had a knee wobble in certain particular moments. Those who came through that particular period, 2020 and 2021, and kept their strong, their strong faith alive. And those who, me, for example, I work in an emergency department, and we have a area called the red zone. And in the red zone is where they bring all those people that was catching that thing. And so, ideally you'd want to stay away from it. But I was working 20 yards away from it, and I've not taken any types of precaution to protect myself against it. My way of protecting myself against it is fearing on Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai and believing on these scriptures. And I've managed to get through this whole period without any tests and without any symptoms. So, it's all comes down to faith. So these things dominate the thoughts of unbelievers. You were sitting at home during 2021, 2022. They were hitting you with propaganda on the TV. These thoughts dominated these unbelievers. And with that, ultimately, these unbelievers ran to them to receive that thing that they received. And then after that, a lot of them started to get sick and have all these types of neurological problems. It's very simple to understand. You shouldn't be allowing these things to dominate your mind. You should be calling on Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. And if anything should be dominating your mind, it should be the scriptures. Matthew 6:33 says, "Seek the kingdom of the Most High above all else and live righteously, and he will give you everything you need." Even when these people around you are bugging out, offering you to take part in this and that, or some people, you might witness people committing certain criminal activity, and it's a bad thing. You might think, what, you might feel like you want to stand up and say something against them, but you have to weigh up your situation. We're not living in the good old 60s where, people stand up and fight criminals as a community. People don't do that anymore. You're seeing people going out filming criminal activity in shopping centres and so on and so forth, and you'll notice that the passers-by just walk on by. So people are left to do whatever criminal activity they're doing. So the mentality out here is very selfish, and it's very aggressive, and it's a lot of me. But you can't get into that. You've got to keep your mind focused on Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai and these scriptures, on the salvation and on these words. It says here, "Don't worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will bring its own worries. Today's trouble is enough for today." As I said before, the Lord's Prayer, "Give us this day our daily bread." So, the fear of the Most High is what's going to get you through. And, when you tap in the words, the fear of and the beginning of, I went to the Blue Letter just to see, what is the beginning of, fear is the beginning of what? And it's very plain. There's only 3 precepts that come up, and it says Psalms 111 and 10. "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. A good understanding have all they that do his commandments. His praise endureth forever." So if you're not following these laws and commandments and the understanding of these scriptures, then you do not have good understanding. You need to follow them, and you need to stick with them, even if the people around you, people in your family even, are breaking these laws and commandments. And the understanding of this left, right, and center. Proverbs 1:7 says, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. So, you're trying to go out here and that's what I'm trying to explain. You're living in a time where people are going to start bugging out. You're bumping into people at work, for example, and they're holding it together within their lives. But you can see that, they're becoming more self-centered, more volatile. When people are under pressure, they react funny, and that's what's happening to a lot of people in society that you're coming across. You're trying to, you try and give them a little bit of wisdom and instruction, and they ain't hearing it. Leave them alone after that point. Don't waste your time trying to, uh, help them fix themselves. Ultimately, the Lord is out here judging people, and if you're coming across people who are bugging out now during the time of this cost of living crisis, wait till Jacob's trouble hits. These are the people that are going to be jumping off bridges and so on and so forth. They're definitely not going to be able to hack it. So jumping down to the last one, Proverbs 9:10 says, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the holy is understanding." The holy, that word holy means separate. So if the Lord considers you holy, he considers you separate from everybody else in this world. So he's going to deal with you differently. And that's why you might find yourself, one of very few people surrounded by hundreds of people who seem to be doing this wickedness. You seem to be seeing these things that are coming. None of them else can see it. You try to give them instruction and wisdom. They don't want to hear it. Leave these people alone. As long as you have that fear in the name Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, you have this understanding, and you will not see death come, the destruction and the day of judgment. So I'm going to leave it right there. I just wanted to go into, like I say, the problem at the minute with anxiety. You have people that are suffering from these issues that are going on. This cost of living crisis is bringing on a lot of issues at the minute. Merimna is anxiety through the idea of distraction, and all the problems that are going on in the world are working people up emotionally, stirring them up. And the powers that be are trying to manipulate people, trying to push them into particular directions. And if you know this truth, you believe the Spirit is working on you, you're not supposed to be going in that direction. You're supposed to be going in the direction of these scriptures. And that's the only real cure for anxiety. So I hope that was all edifying, and I hope that helps coming up in the time when we get to that time of Jacob's trouble. So with that, I'm going to leave it right there. I'm going to say all praises to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rakak, Wadash. Until next time, Shalom.
You should make your own moves, make your own moves. You should make your own moves, and I'ma do what I do, I do cool.